Welcome to a special edition of the AlbumReview.net podcast. This is episode 2 of our new feature, Band Fanatics. In each episode of Band Fanatics, I talk to multiple music fans and hear their stories of their craziest concert experiences. For our second Band Fanatics episode, I welcome 3 friends, John, Andrew, and Zach. All 3 are gigantic music fans, and each one of them has likely been to more concerts than me. And I've been to north of 300. So John, Andrew, and Zach all share their stories of their craziest concert experiences on this episode. If you'd like to be a part of Band Fanatics by AlbumReview.net, send a message to gpotters@AlbumReview.net. That's GPOTTERS @AlbumReview.net. Or you can message me on Instagram @AlbumReviewNet. Tell us briefly about your crazy concert experience. It can be anything. It just needs to be wild. And we'll get back in touch with you if it's right for the podcast. So come be a part of the Band Fanatics Podcast, part of AlbumReview.net. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. So John, what are your, if you have multiple, or if you just have one, give me some examples of a concert experience that you had that was just out of this world, or something you have to share.
So I think I know the one that came to mind when I thought about it. And I got to say, like, I don't have this like crazy night movie of like this one night, this crazy 24-hour period. No one gets arrested. No one gets into a fight or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, so none of those. But the concert that definitely came to mind was end of my junior year, going into my senior year of college. So summer of 1997.
Okay.
Rage Against the Machine and Wu-Tang.
Oh man.
Which at that point, and as you know, we've talked about, that is like the absolute Venn diagram of my 2 college love affairs with. I loved Rage Against the Machine, still do. They were the heaviest friggin' group, and I thought of myself as like a real badass, like socialist historian guy, and so I was down with the politics of their stuff, and like I knew the history of it, and a history guy, so loved that. And Wu-Tang, like, absolutely. And as we were talking about before we went on, I got introduced to Wu-Tang in college. And that just opened a whole new door. So this concert was like, absolutely, I'm pretty psyched to go to this. It's 25 years ago, so I'm trying to remember the details, but oddly enough, I remember being kind of dodgy about going to the concert.
Okay.
I think what happened is these 2 guys from my hometown that I'm not really in touch with anymore, they wanted to go see Rage Against the Machine, a little less Wu-Tang. The guy who got the tickets was maybe like 90 pounds soaking wet in a rail. And basically what I came to learn after I said yes was they brought me as the enforcer. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of a pacifist, guys. Like, I know I'm 6'2" and 200 plus pounds, but I don't fight.
I'm not looking to get in a fight.
And so I'm like, I definitely am going. And then I think this concert, it was
Where was the venue, if you don't mind me asking?
Great Woods, whatever it is now, Mansfield, Mass. So growing up, and this is coming from Rhode Island, so close.
Yep. Yeah. Not a bad drive.
But this was like a snake bitten concert from the jump. So somewhere, I'm going to say that the concert before, and again, 1997. So like baby internet, if that, right? There's really no internet. Rumor spread, as rumors do, that Zach De La Rocca broke his ankle and the concert was off. And so it was like, oh, bummer. So no plans, no planning, just work. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And then the concert was on. So it's like, yeah, let's go, right? We're excited to go. And then there was this awful rainstorm and lightning storm. And this is all in the span of a day. And I don't know how information traveled in August of 1997, pre-Twitter, pre-text. But I learned accurately, and I think honestly, like the local news played a role, that in the span of
word of mouth, like that's how it, like word, literally, like people just walking around.
In the span of 8 hours, the concert was off, then on, then off, then on. And so we're kind of like back and forth, like going, not going, going, not going. Meanwhile, it's kind of raining out, and it's too bad too, right? Like August 21st or something. I had to Google it. I didn't know that. But like, it's supposed to be a nice day, but it's just like kind of the 60, 55-degree rainy day.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh God, what do I wear? But like also compounded by the fact, like, what do I wear? I'm the heavy of this trio. I got to kind of look like a badass, right? So my dad's former military, I grab his camouflage raincoat. He's a little smaller than me, but I'm like, I make it work, right? This is camo. I wear like a black t-shirt. I'm like, all right, I'm the badass of the group. But again, because of a couple things. So I'm also 21, but I am like 3 months into being 21. I am broke. So like I know I'm not buying beer at the concert. Plus, I think Mansfield had a deal where if you have an out-of-state license, you have to be 25. Or I remember Fenway was, so it wasn't reliable that I was going to get served at the venue.
Right. Yeah, there was always a risk when you went to Great Woods. Even if you had a license and you could drink legally, the cops in the parking lot were going to give you smack.
Yeah.
Not literally smack. They were going to give you
But right, like they were
inside the venue, yes. It was always an issue as well. So yeah, those were some of despite the great shows that we all saw at the Great Woods, there was always issues with that venue for sure.
And I remember that. And I remember being there before I was 21 for some concert that was a River Rave or whatever. It was all right.
nice, yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were up people's ass. Like they were like, it was a regular thing that they were in kids' mix, busting up their trunk. So it wasn't like a happy venue, whatever. And I think given the clientele that they expected for Wu-Tang and Rage, I figured they'd be extra spiky, right? And because it was like on, off, everyone was kind of in a weird mood, right?
Wow.
So we get to Great Woods, the sun's still up, but again, it's a crappy, gray, rainy day.
Yeah, and it's late August, so that it still doesn't get dark until like 9 o'clock.
Right. All I managed to do is like convince my brother, I'm like, just give me a friggin' joint, right? Like, I'm not paying you, just give me some of your weed, let me roll a J. And so I bring precisely one joint with me, right? And so I stash that, and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna smoke a joint and then see what the fuck happens at this show. So anyway, we finally get there. We get into our spot. We get settled. We're like, all right, we got like about 45 minutes to an hour before Wu-Tang comes on. And I'm like, let me smoke this joint. So I pull out the joint. I light it. As I light it, 2 cops on bikes like do this power down like the parking lot thing I'm at. And again, what we just talked about, these guys were like the Stasi, right? Yeah. And I was holding a joint, and I just go flick it, and because it's raining, my joint lands in a puddle.
Yeah.
They go gunning right past me to some other shit down the aisle, and I am like, oh, man, you have got to be kidding me. I go retrieve the joint. It's soaking wet, and I'm looking at it. The other 2 guys I'm with brought nothing.
Does anybody have a hairdryer?
And I'm just like, what the? So I just hold on to it. This is pathetic, but eventually it dries out, and I'm like, couldn't light it because it was like, so, I was like, I'm eating it, ate the friggin' joint, and I'm like, see what happens. Nothing. So anyway, we finally get in. We're sitting around waiting. The rain dies down, thank God. And then Wu-Tang goes on late, not at 7. So it was probably supposed to be like Wu-Tang for 2 hours, hour and a half, like 7:30 to whatever. Rage from whatever, it went Wu-Tang Rage. I'll tell you what I witnessed and then tell you what I learned afterwards. So then Wu-Tang goes on, and the whole time you're like kind of doing this, like listening, like not because it was soft, but because it was so poorly mixed that unless you knew the songs, you didn't know what they were singing.
Okay.
And then so they're up there rapping, and this guy who's this character, one of the members called You God, you're like, that don't look like You God. Like from all the album artwork and all the stuff I've seen in magazines, that don't look like him, but whatever. So they're rapping, and then Method Man, who's kind of the big star of the group, takes a nap on the stage at one point. Anyway, it was just kind of like, oh. So it was just like, all right, so I don't have a joint. Wu-Tang's kind of laying an egg here. People around me are like, fuck you. And I'm like, don't tell Wu-Tang Clan you. Like, Wu-Tang Clan's amazing. They're just having a bad night. And then what I came to learn is once they heard Zach broke his ankle and the concert was canceled, they were like, great. And they started partying. Why wouldn't they, right? They're mega wealthy at this point in time. Right. And then the concert goes back on. They stop partying, they rally, they change their plans. It gets canceled again, and only about half the actual members make it. And some of the ones who do were totally tanked and passing out on stage because they were exhausted, right? So anyway, Wu-Tang finishes its set, and I was like, well, that was kind of disappointing, right? We walk around a little bit, stone cold sober. It's probably now 11 o'clock at night. So Rage hasn't even gone on the stage yet, right?
And it's 11 p.m.
11 p.m. because of the delay and the lightning and all that stuff, right? And so anyway, but then Rage comes on, and immediately you're like, whoa, wow, these guys are heavy.
And had you seen Rage
Never.
Before this time? Nope. Okay, so this is your first experience, but you've obviously heard them many, many times.
Yeah,
but you've never seen them live in concert. Okay,
I chose to shift at work instead of going to that famous Lollapalooza concert in Rhode Island in '93. So I regret that one. So I missed them then. So they had just put out, what's the Empire, the whatever, blanking on it, the yellow album with the kid, Evil Empire. They had just put that out the fall prior, and I ate that thing up.
That was with Bulls on Parade, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I think they opened with Bulls on Parade or something, and it was.
Oh my god! Could you the energy level?
Oh, gee, and it was crazy, right? And again, the '90s, mosh pits were kind of standard.
Yep.
And so, I'm mixing it up every once in a while, but I'm also man, I'm kind of tired here, right? Stone cold sober at a concert. My favorite band, Wu-Tang, just laid an egg. And I'm just like, ooh, my friends brought nothing and whatever. And then Rage plays Ghost of Tom Joad, which not many people know. And everyone's whispering, it's like, are they saying Tom Jones? Is it Tom Jones? And we're like, no, it's not Tom Jones. But I remember at one point, my buddy leans over to me. He was a valedictorian in my class. He goes, do you think these people know what Rage Against the Machine is saying? And if you look at the clientele, it's a lot of steakheads out there. And you're like, no, I'm convinced you, me, and maybe 8 other dudes know what they're talking about politically and lyrically. But anyway, they put on a great show. We're doing this, we're doing that, listen to their music. And then the most insane thing that ever happens is their last song. You probably know what it is. If you're Rage Against the Machine, how are you wrapping up the show? Killing in the Name of.
Killing in the Name, yeah.
So
I was going to say that or Know Your Enemy.
Yeah. So Killing in the Name comes on, and that first guitar strum, that boom, and something changes in the whole crowd. It had already been kind of amped up. People were edgy and pissed off. And then everyone, including me, felt it immediately. The tension just quintupled in the whole place. And it was, you get those few first growls before that quiet, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And you could just see the energy building. And then and the place went off. Like the mosh pits multiplied in size and ferocity by like 5. And the thing about that song, you think about it, it's like something primal happens in people, and it is not like I'm gonna kill you primal, but it's like you're trying to kill me and I'm not gonna let you primal. So it's like deeper, darker, and more ferocious than that.
That's a great example.
And it was like, I was like, you know what? I'm 21. I'm a young buck. I got my dad's Marine Corps camouflage raincoat on. I'm going to go mix it up in the mosh pit. I went in like boom, boom. And I was like out. And I am, me, Greg, I'm not a small person. I was like, Jesus Christ, it was insanity. And they just ripped it. That whole song just ripped it. And it was like 4 or 5 minutes, whatever, of screaming intensity. They finished at 1 a.m.
Wow.
And Mansfield, the town of Mansfield, was furious. If there's a reason why there's an 11 o'clock curfew on all outdoor concerts, it's that concert that made it the case in Massachusetts. So all of that adversity, was like worth it for that public display of killing in the name. That was just absolutely filthy. It was just like easily one of the most potent, caustic live songs I've ever, like, I've never seen a song with that much power.
Right.
Or what is it, 10,000 something people? I don't know what the venue holds.
It's 15.
Right. Yeah. But it just lit an absolute match in a kerosene factory. It was just like, it was crazy. That was absolutely insane.
You definitely can consider yourself lucky that you saw Rage in person in concert, because as we all know, their tours over the years, over the decades, have been on and off. And even most recently, we were talking about it the other night, John and I get together regularly to geek out on movies, and then we eventually start geeking out on music. And last summer, Rage canceled their Boston Calling appearance, which is a huge show at the Harvard football stadium. And Metallica, was it Metallica? Or they ended up stepping in, right? And filling in for Rage. So, and then Rage launched another tour in the late spring, early summer, if I remember correctly. And then they only did 4 or 5 shows, something of that nature. In that ballpark, it was like single-digit shows, under 10, and then canceled again. So who knows what's going on? My brain always goes to Zach, because I feel like their guitar player, whose name I'm blanking on.
Tommy Morello.
Tom Morello. Their guitar player, Tom Morello, he always seems to be in the spotlight, and he's a guy that's pretty vocal and seems pretty down to earth and realistic. And so, but I guess in many ways, real artists, they're a little nutty, right? So cool, man. Well,
right, brother.
Thank you very much. I will see you again in 2.5, 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to it. And if, by the way, I would love to continue this. You are definitely somebody that has a lot to add. And so if you'd like to do an album review, if there's something that you want to do, I am all for it. I've had people email me and say, hey, you might not have ever really listened to this album much, Greg, but I'd like to do a review on this. I'm game. Cool. All right, man. Quick break to talk about affiliate marketing. I've been providing reviews and marketing affiliate products for some time now. At no extra cost to you, the consumer, I earn a commission on products and services that I demo, use, purchase, and market. If you're looking to make some extra side hustle income in your life, regardless of the product, industry, or genre, you'll need to learn how and where to start. That's why I'm recommending Pat Flynn's online affiliate marketing course called 123 Affiliate Marketing. Learn the ins and outs to affiliate marketing, which is helping companies grow their customer base by legally and officially developing a partnership with them. Take Pat Flynn's course, 123 Affiliate Marketing, from the comfort of your own home or office space whenever you want. Pat Flynn is the owner and creator of SPI, or Smart Passive Income. Smart Passive Income, or SPI, is a pioneer in the entrepreneurial space, developing state-of-the-art content, training, and resources to help you launch and grow your online business. Pat and SPI focus on the needs and challenges facing entrepreneurs at every stage of their journey, whether it be a freelance career, passive income, content creation, agency business, tech startup, side hustle project, or a personal brand. Their learning and development ecosystem includes must-have guides, popular podcasts, best-in-class courses, insightful publications, and a bunch more. I took these and I strongly recommend this course. For more information, go to the tools and resources page at albumreview.net. You'll see all the Pat Flynn course information there.
Actually, my story today is a great segue with Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan is a good transition into my story that I'm gonna tell today.
Let's hear it.
All right. It all began. No, just kidding.
In a world.
In a world. I got this mic, so I can do that now. Plus, I've got that early morning voice,
Totally, yeah. I know. I appreciate you getting on the call this early.
Yeah. No, it's not early. It's not. I mean, I've been up since.
When the kids get a little older and they need you less, this is going to be early again. So
yeah. All right. Let me get a little water.
Get a little water before you get on there.
All right. So when you asked me about this, I thought, and I emailed you actually about the two different options, because I think about concert experiences I've had as a viewer, as a fan, and then of concert experiences I've had being a performer on stage. And, they both have completely different, experiences, associations, emotions with them and everything. So I have two in my mind, one for each of those kind of categories. I've been fortunate to have some pretty awesome experiences on stage too. And you've been part of some of those as well. So I have that one kind of in my bag, perhaps to share later. It's a shorter one, but it does involve you, and it was a memorable moment, I think, for both of us. But as far as just being a fan and going to shows, having experiences, one really sticks out for me because it was just such a pivotal sort of, experience in my life, as well as just going to a show. And so I'll take you back to 1994.
I think I know where you're going with this. I was waiting for the year, and then I was like, once he says the year, then I might have an idea. But keep going.
Yep.
You could fool me. You could trick me.
Yeah. So 1994, I believe I was 17. And this was the summer of 94. I was a 17-year-old in high school. And at the time, we were into this band in Boston called Planet B. And Planet B is now the former lead singer of Planet B, Charlie Carozzo, is still an active musician in the Boston area and still doing it. And he was actually out in LA a couple months ago, and I tried to meet up with him. And I wanted to meet up with him. One of the reasons I wanted to meet up with him, because I wanted to tell him this story and see what he remembered of it. But it does involve this band. We were all really into this band. I can't remember. I mean, I think we originally saw them open up for Aquarium Rescue Unit at the Paradise in Boston.
Yep. And we saw them at Harper's Ferry quite a bit.
Harper's Ferry every Tuesday night.
Yep.
Harper's Ferry. And that just became like a staple in our Boston life, Tuesday night, Harper's Ferry. And they had a residency there. And so we all just became kind of groupies and friends with these guys and going to see them every week. And at one point, I can't remember exactly how it came up, but at one point I somehow became their merch kid, selling merchandise for them. So I would just be, in the back where they had all their t-shirts and stuff set up. And I think somebody could make it one night, and Charlie was like, "Hey, do you want to help do this for us?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I became kind of like their merch kid. And we used to also hang out at their band house in Alston, I think it was. And one day he said to me, "Hey, we're going on this tour. Do you want to come with us, sell some merch at our shows? And then we're also going to go see the Dead at Highgate, Vermont at that festival there with Bob Dylan, who's also playing there." So I'm like, let me think about that. That sounds pretty good. But at the time, I'm 17 and I'm thinking, I gotta, I'm not independent. I need some approval from mom and dad to go on a tour with a band that they don't know and then go see the Dead at a huge festival in Highgate, Vermont. And I'd never seen the Dead before, and this still to this day is the only time I've ever seen the actual Dead. But maybe I gave it away too soon. So let me back up. I asked my parents, and that was a conversation. And then eventually they said yes for some reason. They had enough. I don't know. They had heard about this band. I think the fact that, I was going to be with them, they're older, maybe more responsible. They're going to look after me. And, I'm 17, and I guess they just took a chance. They were like, yeah, okay, go for it. So I remember the morning that my dad drove me out to his house and dropped me off at his house, and I had my backpack. And I still couldn't believe it. I'm like, is this really happening? You're just going to let me go off with this band and like just do this tour with these guys and then go to a Dead show? And so it was that for that moment too, it was like also a big moment for me for like being given the independence to just go off on and travel and go on this experience with these guys. It would kind of I always felt like I was taking a leap and my parents were taking a little bit of a leap. So off I went. I remember so many details of this trip, driving up there and everything. And so
I'm looking up the date, Zach, and it says July 13th, 1994.
That was it.
Keep going.
Yeah. So this was summer of 94. So we're going up, and they had some shows. They had a show in Maine and a show in Vermont, maybe one other show. But the first stop, I believe, was the festival. So we were going to the festival first and meeting up with a bunch of friends of theirs. And so we drive up to the festival. It's obviously a fun, trip driving up there and everything, and sitting in the back seat and with Charlie's girlfriend at the time and another friend of his who was doing most of the driving. And it was fun. And then we finally make our way up there, through that huge miles and miles of traffic on those little roads going up to the concert site. We finally get up to the area where we're going to be camping. I guess we did the camping nearby. We set up and, having kind of our pregame and everything, getting all excited. And then it's like this one road leading into the concert site with, I don't know, it was probably close to, if not more, over 100,000 people or something at that concert. It was the Dead and Dylan, maybe. I think that was it. Just them. Just those two artists. So we're walking in with thousands of people on this little road, walking in, we're all excited, and maybe about 5-10 minutes into that walk, I just turn around and they're gone. I totally lost them. And this was pre-cell phones. So, there's only so much you could do, really. Look around and, try to figure out where they went. I sort of backtracked a little bit and then looked around, and I spent maybe 10, 15 minutes looking. And I'm like, man, I just lost all those guys. Nowadays, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like I'd be like, all right, or, you'd try with your phone, but if not, but at that particular time for me, like it was, I'm 17. I'm like, all right, I really, I kind of really was depending on these guys. I'm like part of their crew, and I kind of gone up with them and everything. So it was kind of a big deal. I kind of panicked a little bit. So I had this idea. I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run up to the front gate, because I'll definitely beat them there if I just book it up there. And then I'm going to just go through with my ticket, Fortunately, I had my ticket. He didn't have all the tickets. So I had my ticket, back in the day of a paper ticket. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to wait for them because there was only about 8 or 10 slots where all the people could walk into the concert. So I'll go through and I'll go on the other side and I'll wait for them. Pretty good idea. So I did that and I got through and I'm on the other side of the fence watching people as they're coming in. I'm about maybe 50 yards away. And as I'm watching people come in, I start to see some people like sort of start climbing the fence, the ticket gate, and around where they're giving the tickets, and people are like, "Hey, get down!" But there's so many people, it just started happening, and they sort of slowly kind of lost control, and people started accumulating. And then as they're accumulating, all of a sudden, I start to see these fences kind of start to go back and forth and, kind of sway back and forth. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people on that fence. And then boom, the fence just falls down toward me. The whole fence collapses.
I'm having
and
crazy
thousands of people. What's that?
I'm having fence flashbacks right now. I have some concert fence climbing experience.
Oh my gosh. And, just to say, this was back in the day when you'd go to these big festivals, and it was not that uncommon for just like either holes in the fence or people with ladders in the parking lot, hey, I got a ladder, give me $10 and you can jump the fence. Or, I went to a bunch of these festivals in England because I was years later when I was in college in England. I went to the Glastonbury Festival a couple times.
Got a great story about that one.
And those were like, these massive festivals, but you couldn't possibly like control all those people. And people would be getting in, left and right. We just go to those festivals without tickets. We'd just be like, oh yeah, of course we're going to find a way to get in. So the security was not nearly what it is now. And this just happened occasionally. And I just happened to be there, right there watching it. And obviously I had my game plan, which I'm going to try to find my friends as they came in. So as soon as those fence collapsed, first thing I thought was I'm going to die and I better get the heck out of the way, because thousands of people started running toward me. And so I run out of the way. I watch all these people flood the concert site. I was like, at that point, I'm like, all right, guess I'll make the best of it. Spent the whole festival, the whole day, just cruising around, walking around on my own, meeting different people.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like just an early experience where I'm like, oh man, I guess this is it. This is how I'm going to see the Dead for the very first time. And Dylan, I remember like moments of, I think I was so occupied with being there and the whole scene of it and being on my own, then I don't remember like the show, I don't remember really sitting and watching the show attentively that much. All I remember is like these moments. And one of the first moments I remember is looking up at the screen and seeing this kind of old guy hunched over with white hair and just being like, so that's Jerry. And he looked like this kind of old, like Santa guy, like just, toward the end of his career, end of his life, really. Yeah.
Did Dylan open the show, or did he? I'm assuming he opened and then he came out and played with them. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe he did. I'd love to find I've
got the set list, some highlights from the set list. Jack Straw, Althea, Loser, Tennessee Jed, Let It Grow. They played Karina, which I believe is or Bob Dylan played it. I don't know a lot. Need a Miracle, Standing on the Moon. They closed the show with Sugar Mags, and then they encored with U.S. Blues. So, and that was at Franklin County State Airport in Swanton, Virginia. July 13th, 1994.
That was Virginia or?
No, I'm sorry. Swanton, Vermont, not Virginia.
Oh yeah, Vermont. Okay, yeah. Which is like part of like Highgate was like the area or something like that. Yeah. Yep. I don't remember much of it. Not for like the reasons you'd normally say I don't remember much of a Dead concert, but because I wasn't, I wasn't really into much stuff at that time. I just like was so kind of, in awe of this experience. And then Dylan, I remember not, he sounded also like not that great. And I just remember the experience of being there and all the entertainment value of just being in that scene. For me, it was like better than the concert
Two gods
itself.
of music.
Yeah.
Basically.
And the crazy thing is, like, I had so many different experiences roaming around during the shows. But the crazy thing is, I ran into Andrew,
I remember you told me
friends of ours from our high school, several friends, like just, 100,000 people. And I run into, and like, I think we just had these quick like exchanges, like, oh, hey man, hey, what's up? All right, see you later. Have a good show. And it's like, do you realize the odds of like,
yeah, right. It's like running into Greg Mansfield in Italy.
yeah.
What?
Well, that's the best one ever.
Kid we went to high school with.
Cake.
I know. Oh my God, this is so difficult because I need to add on to this, but my time is limited. You got back and you were like, yeah, dude, I got lost and I just roamed around the whole weekend basically by myself. But then you ended up finding the guys
yes.
afterwards, right? Did you have to go and like back in those days, for those of you who are maybe under 30 years old, you at those kind of festivals, if you wanted to find somebody, you had to go to like a board and post like, yo, Charlie, I'm looking for you. Zach, if you get this, meet me at blank, food stand at 3:00 or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. They had those meetup, or you'd say, hey, meet, if we get lost, meet at like that meetup area. And there was like these designated like meetup areas. Totally.
Yeah.
And those billboards where you could post messages, and it was just, it was a whole other world, really.
It really was.
And I remember one of the stories, the story you told actually was another great example when you guys lost Jeff at the
oh my God, I still have heart palpitations about that week.
Yeah, and that was like a really just a real fear of like being at these shows. Like if you depended on your friends for whatever reason to get home or whatever it was, you had to come up with these plans. Like if you lose each other, we meet here, or and I knew I did have that comfort of knowing where we were camped and I would see them afterwards. So at least I knew I'd see them after. And I think I remember like after the show, walking back, that kind of long walk and finally getting back to the campsite.
100 miles.
I think I remember them all like around a fire, like hanging out, playing and having some beers. And they're like, oh, hey man, what's up? And I'm just like, hey
guys. You're like Chevy Chase. You're like, you thirsty?
So that happened. Kind of lost you back there. I don't know if you noticed.
You've got like a torn shirt, like you have no money on you, one Birkenstock on, and they're just like, hey man, sit down and have a brew, man, have a tatty porter.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
No, it was I mean, it's we've had some crazy ones together for sure as well.
We got to do more of those. Let's do another one at some point soon.
The one I wanted to tell of us, which can be for another time, was when you went to my show in New Hampshire.
That one still gives me goosebumps, and I actually, somewhat related to that, I have in my Dropbox account still, I have your video that you made of you guys at the Greek Theater.
Oh yeah.
I played that Friday night or Thursday night for the boys. Because we were talking about going to London, because we're going to London in February. And I was like, we got to go to Royal Albert Hall. And the boys were like, what's that? And I was explaining what it was. And I told them about that's another one too. When we saw Sting at Royal Albert Hall, I just like walked by and I was like, oh, what's playing here tonight? Oh, this guy named Sting, and I was like, I looked at you and I was like, dude, I don't care how much this costs. We're going into this show. We're going. And you were like, cool, man, awesome. I'm game. That's cool. And, but I told them about Rye, and Holly was like, yeah, what was Rye's last name? So then I started talking about, Rye X, and she was like, X? I thought it was coming. And I was like, well, and I explained the story. Of course, the boys got curious. So I pulled up on the TV in our living room, I pulled up your video.
No way.
Played it for them, and they were like, awesome. they were totally uninterested until the clips of you guys on stage, and then their eyeballs were like, whoa, because they didn't really get like the the importance of it and the size of it. You know, you guys were backstage and you were chatting and you were, you know, warming up, and, you know, Rye was talking to the camera, and you did like the hands in kind of thing. And then they were like, Daddy, this is boring. Like, is there basketball on? You know, and then all of a sudden it clips to you guys on stage, and they were like, how many people were at that show? And how big is the Greek? How many people? How many seats? 10,000 at least?
Yeah, it's 10 to 20 or so. Yeah.
So that's something else that we'll get into in another time. We've talked to previous podcasts, but Zach has played in front of, you know, 10, 20, in many cases even more, 1,000 people. So, all right, dude.
No problem.
So thanks. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Enjoy some football if you get a chance. And I'll let you know when this is coming out. Real quick break to talk about a new edition of the albumreview.net podcast. So what was your craziest concert experience? Can you think of it? Can you remember it? Is there a concert or a rock show that you've attended any time in your life that you just need to share? Well, the albumreview.net podcast is doing a segment called Band Fanatics, where we interview music fans on the podcast as they share their most insane concert experience. So how do you submit your story? Send a message to gpotters@albumreview.net. That's GPOTTERS @albumreview.net. Or you can message me directly on Instagram @albumreviewnet. Tell us briefly about your crazy concert experience. It can be anything. It just needs to be wild. And we'll get back in touch with you if your story's right for the podcast. Come be a part of the Band Fanatics Podcast, part of albumreview.net. Looking forward to hearing from you guys.
Can you see me?
Hey, buddy. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Start video.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go, neighbor.
Okay. Yeah. Look at your.
Are you?
Where are you? In Howard Stern's studio.
I've invested. Yeah, I took my my lemonade stand money and I built a studio in my basement.
Live. Is that a fake backdrop?
No, man, this is real. Yeah, you didn't know? Yeah, of course. Yes.
You have like a fight. It's like weird to see when you move. Yeah, it's true.
Oh yeah, how's your arm doing?
I've never got an operation.
Nice.
And I mean, it's like night and day from when I talked to you, which was like, I don't know, a week after the accident or something.
Right. Yeah.
But I still do have pains, and you know how like I know something's wrong in it because you know how sometimes you pop like your knee, or like when you crack your knuckle and you hear that. Well, that's happening in my elbow, and it's never happened before. So there is something going on. But, you know, I can use it.
Are you doing any? I don't know the rules.
Exercises.
Are you doing physical therapy with a doctor or?
No, but I'm lifting bags all the time, and I'm using my hand and stretching, and so I mean the from where I was when I talked to you to now, it's like unbelievable. And I'm glad I made the choice not to get surgery.
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't think that it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to heal this well. So
that's great, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Good stuff.
Yep. Yeah, man.
Good stuff. Well, things are good here. Danny went 0-2. Danny's basketball team went 0-2 this weekend. We had a game down in Foxborough last night, and we actually went to Gillette Stadium for dinner. Skipjacks.
Was it nice?
It was good. I hadn't been down to the stadium in a while, and because the Pats were out of town, it was fairly mellow, so it was easy to get in and out of there, like to the mall area. I don't know if you've ever been to the mall, the Patriot Place outdoor mall.
I haven't been to the Patriots Place since it was called Sullivan Stadium. I take that back. The last time I was at Foxborough was 1994.
Pink Floyd. No way. Wow.
Justin Love was right next to me, and right next to him was Vanya. He's just
oh my God.
both weeks right in front of my stepmother.
I still think about that concert on a regular basis. So
I'm glad you remember it.
I do remember it pretty well. I remember laughing my head off at Matt Clayson going, this guy was like beeping at us to let us in, or to let him in as we were leaving the parking lot. And he just goes like, yeah, fuck you. And this guy had a big like black Pink Floyd hat, and he goes, and you waste of money hat. And like, I guess when I repeat it now, it's not as funny, but just in the moment, we were all
except for Clayson,
crippled over with well, it could have been anybody that said it. It wasn't necessarily Clayson. It was because we all agreed, like we were all in the stadium, and I was like, I'm not going to pay $45 for a fucking hat. Like that hat sucks. So anyway, It was, yeah.
Well, that was a great concert, but it wasn't one of my craziest concerts.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. So, I mean, I have a two that come to mind, and I mean, I don't really have tons of stuff to say on either one of them, but it's just they are kind of crazy in terms of the actual overall, like how it went down and what it was, and
so fire away.
The first concert that I thought about talking about was way back in the day when we were probably, I think, juniors or seniors. I think I was a senior in high school, and Justin Love. And
so this is either 1994 or 1995.
Yeah, 95, I think. I
Okay.
think it was senior year. I don't think at 16 or 17 my parents would have allowed me to do this, but somehow when you get to be a senior in high school, it's like you grow up a little bit more, and
and your parents,
they know you're about to go to college,
don't care as much.
So he had this entrepreneur father, kind of very successful family, owning a lot of businesses in the area, frugal fannies. So it was just kind of interesting. His parents were very modern and had like all these MC Escher paintings and original like paintings on the wall. So he was just an interesting guy, and he lived a couple blocks down from my dad, and we got to know each other. I feel like it was that way. Or it could have been on a teen tour.
Isn't Justin the guy that?
That's where I met Justin Love, by the way.
Isn't Justin the guy? Isn't he the one who one of his famous stories was he when he moved out of his house, he went back or there was a night where he had a couple too much to drink, and he went back to that house and like knocked on the door, and then realized as he was knocking that. He told me that story, so I don't know if that resonates with you.
On his own door? I don't remember. I don't recall.
Like his parents had moved out of the house, and he just had a ton to drink one night, and his brain told him to like go back to that house. So
wow, that must have been really late in the in the time frame of him moving off of that Oxbow Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, no, that must have been.
Anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I don't know whether you might have known that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I could see Justin Love doing with his love bud. But he had this crazy uncle who I guess had some odd jobs, but apparently was the manager of the harmonica player on Eric Clapton's From the Cradle tour.
Oh, cool.
So Justin's uncle was the manager of this harmonica player, and the harmonica player was Jerry Portnoy, who I think is a pretty famous harmonica player who has just been around playing with all these amazing musicians. And Justin said, "Hey, do you want to take a trip across the pond to London to go to a Eric Clapton concert at Royal Albert Hall, go backstage?" And I was like, I think I do. I think I do want to do that as a senior in high school. And so I really don't think I had to kind of manipulate my parents too much. I think they were pretty cool about it at that point in time. So within like a week of him asking me, we were on a big, huge double-decker plane to London.
Wow.
And from the moment we got on that plane, having Bloody Marys to the time we got back to Boston, where I probably slept for 2 days.
I guess because technically when you're on the plane, you can drink.
Yeah, on the plane, it'd say I'm 18. I probably had my fake Dean Scontris. Dean Scontris ID, which when you look back at those, man, I mean, I can't believe. I mean, obviously the storekeepers were just like, I want the money, because this thing looked, oh my God.
Dean Scontris and Ben Westner.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it probably absolutely did work in London and overseas where they just had no idea
Yeah.
what things would look like. But so yeah, we ended up going over there, and first we met the manager, his uncle, and man, I mean, he was like, I mean, I basically he was like, who's the guy that drinks the Big Lebowski? He was like the Big Lebowski. Yeah, he was like the dude. He had sunglasses at nighttime. Um, he had like this big beard. He was like, Justin, man, I mean, come on. And he was like, he literally. And so the first thing we do, and I don't know if this is, I mean, I don't know if I can say this stuff, if it's legal or not. I guess it is because pot's legal, but like the harmonica player requested that Uncle Leland come to his hotel room. So we went to the hotel room with at that point, like actually to still to this day, the biggest package filled with weed. Just like, here you go.
Wow.
And so we went to the harmonica player's hotel room, gave him that, had some drinks, and this Uncle Leland, you know, he would have like marijuana cigarettes, like it was like a pack a day. Like he just kept on.
Wow.
So it was just a crazy time even before the concert, and but the anticipation was really exciting. And Royal Albert Hall, I had never seen a concert there, and I requested to the harmonica player when I met him, who was a really nice guy, can you play a specific song that I loved off that album called 5 Long Years? Okay. And that's just like a standard kind of blues song, but I mean, Eric Clapton, and I'm not the biggest fan of Eric Clapton, but at that point in time, that album was like, I was listening to that. I remember specifically, I was listening to that album at the time, and Wildflowers, Tom Petty.
So was like, baby.
On the Cradle, Wildflowers. Yeah. That's the era. We go to the show. We have great seats. He plays that song. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's playing the song. I don't know if they had a set, you know, standard set list every night, but I was thinking to myself, he played that for me. And then we were able to go backstage, and I briefly met Eric Clapton, but it was like, I don't think he was in the best of moods. He said, like, you know, one thing like, yeah, how you doing? Shook my hand. And then I literally, he was in the like green room for maybe a minute. But hey, it was Eric Clapton,
better than nothing.
Incredible experience. And, you know, to do that at 18 and to go overseas and see that, yeah, that was a crazy experience, a unique experience, and one that I'll never forget.
And was there
somebody like one of my best friends? Yeah.
Was there an opener that night? Do you remember? Or that might not be important. But I was just curious.
There wasn't an opener. He played I think it was just maybe one set and an encore.
Yeah.
But a solid, you know, 2 hours. And I'm trying to think if I had ever seen another show at Royal Albert Hall. And I think actually the only other show, because I had another connection in Gallon, that we went to go see Counting Crows we saw Counting Crows at Royal Albert Hall after that one, but that wasn't a crazy as crazy as that story, as the Eric Clapton story.
I'm looking up Jerry Portnoy right now.
Yep. He may not even be alive. Is he alive?
Yes, he's still alive. He's 79 years old.
Yeah.
Grew up in Chicago.
Which would have made him like 50 something.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
79. So, but yeah, this was, and that's no relation to Mike Portnoy
or David Portnoy, I mean, Portnoy. We're talking about 3 Jewish people there.
So there could be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they go back on the boat. They're definitely related in some way. The Portnoys, all the Jewish Portnoys came over on the boat.
Okay.
I don't know how closely they were related, but
very cool. Cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing those, and we should do this again because there's like 800 more.
We'll figure that all out, man. And I'm glad you invited me in on your podcast. That was awesome.
thanks for joining. And
Yeah.
we're going to do more because you have like amazing stories. I've already recorded one with Zach. And I mean,
What was his?
stories.
Oh, wait, you're not going to tell me.
Yeah, you know what? Haha. No, I'm going to make it a surprise. So you're going to have to hear the episode, but I'm going to put you guys both in the same episode.
Nice.
I think you were at the same concert, but you didn't go together. So I'll just
No, I think I know.
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
I know what it is. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. And
okay, guys. Have a
in
great.
fact, I'm gonna text you. I'm gonna text you something in the next couple of days.
Bye, Alberta. Bye, Freddie. I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
See you later. Thanks. Thank you again for listening to Band Fanatics, brought to you by the AlbumReview.net podcast. And thanks again to John, Andrew, and Zach for sharing their stories. Once again, if you'd like to be part of Band Fanatics by AlbumReview.net, send a message to gpotters at AlbumReview.net. That's GPOTTERS at AlbumReview.net. Or you can message me on Instagram at AlbumReviewNet. Tell us briefly about your crazy concert experience. It can be anything. It just needs to be wild. And we'll get back in touch with you if your story is right for the podcast. So come be a part of the Band Fanatics podcast, part of AlbumReview.net. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Broken landscape.